Wow, welcome back from a little break, but right into the swing of things. It's September, it's the 20th of September, it's the All Things Techie Podcast, episode 51.
The All Things Techie Podcast is a product of the Extreme Media Network. For advertising and sponsorship opportunities, please visit www.extrememedia.ie. That's XTREME media.ie.
Roll it there.
Audio visual from an Irish perspective. This is the All Things Techie Podcast.
It is indeed episode 51 of the All Things Techie Podcast. I'm Justin Dawson, and welcome to Dublin, Ireland, where everything's getting moving again. Really getting moving again, because this is the first day that the government really have said, go back to work, guys, go back to work. Stop working from home. Well, if you want to work from home, ask your employee. That's the way it feels. Traffic has quadrupled on the roads in the past 24 hours or so. Campuses are reopening. Students were back on campus today for me for the first time in 18 months. God, I'll be getting to more of that later on. Felt weird. Like, it's, walking around campus, despite all the COVID-19 signs of like walking one way and wearing face masks, sort of. There's a couple around, yes, don't get me wrong, but the rules are now that on campus, the lecturer at the front of the room has to have a 2-meter distance in front of them. But the rest, students, all sitting beside one another wearing face masks. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. Are we following the English model? I don't know. We're supposed to be up to 90% vaccinations amongst adults, but meanwhile in primary schools there's a lot of kids still out sick, and if they're close contacts they could be out for a couple of weeks. And then I know cases where friends and relatives even, that their young son was a close contact. He tested negative the first time, wait a while, wait a week or so, test again, tested positive the second time. Long story short, this adult was nearly out of work for a month working from home. Can we do that with adults and lecturers that work in universities? I don't know. Are we ready for it? Should we just be continuing doing a hybrid model? Meanwhile, let's put universities aside and higher ed aside. We have people returning to work after, like, most employers said, oh, don't worry about it, you can work from home. Some people that I know have relocated in Ireland, and they're living like in other counties on the basis that they were thought that they would be allowed to work permanently from working from home. They might not need to get a new job. I know another friend who was comfortable working from home for the past 18 months, and their business was situated in the city centre. Now they've moved out to right into the suburbs of South Dublin. She's living in North Dublin. She's still asking, can she work from home? They're saying, well, maybe one day a week. So it's put pressure on a lot of people. As the budget in Ireland talks about putting the petrol prices up by €1 in the next budget. So, do you want us to work from home? Do you want us to use public transport, which is full to the brim, and wear face masks while travelling into town, the city centre of Dublin, for an hour? How are you guys getting on? Now, let me hear from you. If you want to get in touch with me, you can contact me directly at Justin or Dawson. The Twitter handle for this show is at AVTechJunkies. Simon can't join me today, but we have loads of stuff coming up on the programme, including ZoomTopia happened. Zoom Academy happened earlier than ZoomTopia. We'll be talking about what is coming up with the latest bits and pieces coming out from Zoom. We're also going to be talking about the LTSMG. The LTSMG is from home again. Let's actually talk about the LTSMG. The LTSMG is from home again this November, 18th of November 2021. If you're working in higher ed in UK and Ireland, please just visit the LTSMG website. The Harman Experience Centre in London will host this live event. I'm sure Adam is finding out what suit that he's going to wear, and Aaron as well. They did a great job last year, and great swag box as well. And they did the wolf, what's it called, the wolf run for charity recently. You can see some photos if you're watching the video of this podcast. Don't forget, you can watch the video on YouTube, or you can visit our website www.allthingstech.ie, and we're available on your favorite podcast store as well. But if you're watching the program on YouTube, you can see some photos of the wolf run and some videos. And the guys did great. I have to say, the guys did really well as well. Well, we're keeping it Irish in this program, listeners, because our special guest is Kevin Donnelly from Sony, and Kevin became the first Abixa CTS-D, the CTS design holder in Ireland. We'll be chatting to him shortly. Don't forget, if you want to get in contact with the program, here's how you do so.
Like our show, don't forget to subscribe to All Things Techie in your favorite podcast store.
Now, Zoom Academy took place earlier in the summer, and also followed closely by ZoomTopia, which happened last week. And Zoom is platform updates, empower hybrid teams, connect work streams, and engage communities. And what did they have? They bring out a new Zoom whiteboarding across all devices. You know what? Is this copying the Google Jamboard? Slightly. The enhanced Zoom whiteboard, anticipated later this year, will enable seamless synchronous collaboration across a wide range of devices while providing more engaging and streamlined meeting experience. You'll be able to interact with a virtual whiteboard just like you would in person. And then instead of having to say next slide please, the amount of times I have been supporting a Zoom call or Zoom event and the presenter has problems with their slides, or they can't share their slides, or they're having problems, or they're working off one screen. Well, Zoom has listened once more, and similar setting to a remote control, multiple people can control the slides, eliminating the need for a verbal cue. I like this feature that's coming on board. Also, Zoom events and being able to do multi-day events, multi-concurrent meetings, and a paid event stream or free event stream. Now it's gone into Zoom Conference. That will be available later in the quarter 4 of this year to be able to do that. And Eric Wan did a great job. Eric Wan dancing at the beginning of ZoomTopia as well. And I really love it. Eric Wan follows me on Twitter. I love that. I think that's my biggest accolade, is that Eric Wan follows me on Twitter. I love all my Twitter followers, I have to say. I do actually love all my Twitter followers. But Eric Wan follows me, so hopefully he's listening to the program. Eric, thank you for following me on Twitter. Continuous collaboration. Zoom is making it easier to collaborate before, during, and after a meeting, with the ability to seamlessly access and send content that is shared in a meeting, such as in-meeting chats, files, and videos, and access to integrations with file sharing solutions. You can easily collaborate on documents and projects without leaving the Zoom client. I think this is really just integrating a lot of the Zoom apps. They have a huddle view. Now, I don't know how this is going to work. It might work well. I've seen other huddle apps where you can bring people into a circle and you can begin chatting with them virtually. Huddle View, in the next few months, Zoom is adding a new toggle for Zoom chat channels. Huddle View will give you the visual representation of a channel, giving teams a sense of togetherness while they chat and collaborate. It might catch on. It might not. More things to their Zoom phone integration. Smart gallery, hot desking. Hot desking could be really useful as many companies are prioritizing flexible workspaces as hybrid work models become the norm. With Zoom hot desking, employees will be able to book desks and spaces using an interactive map and eventually select seats or arrangements recommended by Zoom's AI, giving organizations the ability to reconfigure their workspaces for flexible working. Zoom Phone already offers some hot desking capabilities and Zoom will be bringing a new QR code hot desking experience to Zoom Phone appliances and Zoom Rooms in beta later this year. A load of new products that will integrate with Zoom, including the D10 Meet Pro, a 27-inch all-in-one collaboration display that connects to your computer via USB and Smart Connect. The LogiDock, the Logitech Tap Scheduler, new things for Zoom breakout rooms and Zoom rooms, conference, as I spoke about, that's going to be coming out in Q4, and more immersive apps and platform securities, loads of features, and I can't wait to get my Zoom swag as well. There's some Zoom swag on the way to me as well. It might come in time. I say that will come just as the LTSMG conference is coming up later in the year. Can't wait for the LTSMG as well. Got a couple of cool things during the summer, including the Mute Me button. And the Mute Me button, the video is available on my own personal website, justinordawson.com, where you can see me unboxing that. I also got my hands on this, which is the Mi 11 5G phone Lite. Really love that dual SIM phone. I'll be doing a review on that, and that's on the website as well, justinordawson.com. And I also got a Foki, which helps me focus and hopefully make me study more and keep focused and not procrastinate. I'll be doing a review of Foki as well, and you can see that on justinordawson.com as well. Now, Kevin Donnelly, he is the first CTS-D holder in Ireland. I caught up with Kevin Donnelly, and he told me how he first began in the audiovisual industry, saying that something that, like, I always said that I might go after one or the other. I'm still trying to aim for one, I'll say no more. But Kevin has become the first Avixa, or what used to be known as Infocom, but the first Avixa CTS-D holder in Ireland. Never before that we can say that there was a CTS. Has Chuck Espinoza given you like part of the special handshake now of becoming the first?
Joe, I'm looking forward to ISE, going over to the Avixa booth with my little badge and my lapel with my CTS-D. So no, I last a number of years ago I thought I might do CTS, and like that. Then last year the lockdown happened, and I was sitting at home, and they did the 30 days free on all the courses. So I looked at a few of them, and I really enjoyed it. So I was like, you know what, I'll do CTS, and I said, right, before the end of the year, I'm going to do it. And then in January, my wife said, so what do you want to do next? I was like, I'm going to do CTS-D next. It's like, why not,
Mm-hmm.
So again, like that, I just booked it and said, okay, now I have to do it. So yeah, said, what the hell, why not?
Well, actually, speaking of which, like, you're living in Cork, aren't you, at the moment?
I'm Limerick. Well, I'm actually in the UK now. So I've started a new job within Sony. So I'm commuting.
Right.
So I'm in the UK 4 days a week or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm Limerick. I'm from.
Yeah. Oh, Limerick. Okay, fair enough. We'll get the accent right. That's for all our Americans who go, or Canadians who get confused of being American at times. It's like, well, I just totally insulted Kevin there. But where did you have to go off to do the exam? Because there's only 2 or 3 places in Ireland.
There's 2 centres, yeah. So in Finglas.
You did the exam centre, yeah.
Yeah, the exam centre in Finglas, yeah.
Yeah. Now, you're saying now that you started a new role. So how often are you commuting to and fro?
Weekly, pretty much. Now, I'm only doing it. I've only been doing it a month. This is, I think, week 5. So on Monday to Thursday. So basically, I was channel account manager for Ireland. So I was dealing with all the integrators, and some of the end users in Ireland trying to kind of obviously drive the business. But now the new role is dealing with consultants and end users only. So I've no kind of reseller focus, although there's still no replacement in Ireland for me yet. So I'm kind of doing two jobs. But actually, it's grand. Someone will come on soon enough, and I'll be able to concentrate on it.
So I always ask this question: where did the audiovisual all start off for you, Kevin? Did you like, as some people that I've interviewed before, Tom from Avixa said, "Well, no one wakes up in the morning goes, I want to be an audiovisual technician."
Yeah, well, so when I was a kid, my parents had a retail shop, and then that grew into kind of B2B stuff as well. So my dad started like doing kind of repairs in the garage, and then he set up the shop and still doing repairs. So I kind of grew up in the workshop, looking at what they were doing, and kind of then I'd go out in deliveries. So I'd be delivering TVs and VCRs and whatever to houses, and then when we kind of started into the B2B stuff, again I'd be out installing projectors. I remember doing an 800 lumen SVGA not NEC JVC projector, and you couldn't invert it. We had to get a cage manufactured to hold it out of the ceiling, because you couldn't even invert it into the ceiling, and running like soldering the 15-pin VGA connector and stuff like that. So I'm doing it a long time, since I was in secondary school, and then throughout college I was always doing it part-time, holidays and weekends and stuff, installing our conferences. I did a lot of conference hire stuff, and then kind of I did the Crestron Simple Plus programming back in 2004 maybe, or even 2001, something like that.
He's
good
telling
long time
all
back.
the listeners his age now at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it. I've been around the game a very long time. As I said, kind of we used to do a lot of work in Dell in Limerick, and there was a Canadian guy there for years and years, and he'd buy stuff at the house out of the shop, and we'd go out to deliver it, and we'd end up staying all evening chatting, because my dad was a gas man, to be talking to people, talking off rubbish. But anyways, so we were sitting around chatting, and he'd be slagging me coming through, because I'd be passing tools up to my dad on the top of the ladder. And then one day he comes and my dad was passing tools up to me. He's like, "Oh, look at this role reversal with Mark Kevin." So yeah, no, I'm doing it a long time.
Wait, so when did you join Sony? When?
Just short of 5 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So like that. Now I kind of dealt with Sony for 5 or 6 years before that, or more actually. We did a lot of Sony in the company in Limerick, and then after that I was working for a company in Dublin that was predominantly telephony and networking, and they wanted to set up an AV department. So it was actually, I got Niall Duggan, who used to work with me and then went to Crestron. He got chatting to this guy, and your man was like, "Do you know anyone good?" So Niall was like, I know this guy Kevin, he'll be, so yeah, I kind of joined them then. And,
now you mentioned like a family type of business, and my late dad was an electrician as well. How often was the arguments on technology of going, "Dad, you don't know what you're talking about"?
Oh yeah. Well, it was when there was new stuff coming to people. Well, to be fair, my dad still tries to keep up. He's 10 years retired, but he still tries to keep up with stuff. And even the odd old customer will bring, like, we did a lot of broadcast stuff, and kind of the one-man band videographer, the wedding video guys. A lot of those guys still bring stuff to my dad to get repaired if they have old stuff, and he'd be tinkering away in his little workshop upstairs now in the house. So he still keeps up to date as much as he can, but like he knew more than I'll ever know, really. And it was proper old school electronics stuff. He'd be able to explain wave and sine and everything to me when I was a kid. It was great.
Yeah. How much things have changed, especially when we talk about like tube TVs and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I remember this is a good one. I remember being in the workshop with him, and we got a number of TVs in, and there was something wrong with all of them. All of them, the tube was slightly off. So what we had to do was unbox all of them, and because it was coming close to Christmas, so we wouldn't have time to send them back and have Christmas stock. So we were unboxing them, opening the back in the workshop, and taking the glue off and turning the the thing in the back of the tube to get them level. So what we'd done was we had a mirror facing us. So we had them set up on the bench, and we had a line across on the mirror of where it should be.
When
And we
should be
put
lined.
in, yeah, so it was a 4:3 TV, and we put a 16:9 signal in.
Are you listening, Chuck Espinosa? This is proper discus model right here.
Yeah, and we turned it to get it.
This is the Irish version of the discus model of like how to line things on. Yeah, use a mirror.
An old CRT. Yeah, that was funny one. To be fair, that was one of the best ones.
Well, now, with working with Sony, I'm sure you've gone to a lot of different trade shows. I always ask the question: have you been to Infocom?
Not yet. I was actually angling to go this year, but Sony have announced that they're not going to show.
Okay.
Unfortunately, so yeah, no, I hopefully 2022 I'll get to go to Infocom. I've been to ISE every year since I joined Sony, and I had been obviously a few times before that.
Did you go during the lockdown or the past two events?
Yeah, well, 2020 we did one. All right, okay. Yeah, and it was good. I mean, yeah, a lot of people pulled out. You know, it was kind of touch and go time. So I remember I was flying out of Dublin. I got a bus up to Dublin on the Sunday night, and I got a voicemail from someone who said, "Yeah, I've decided I'm not going over." And it's like, oh, it's okay. How many more are going to do the same?
And with the lockdowns as well, were you one of those people that could continue working, or were you working at distance? Or?
It was working at home. Working from home. Yeah, I mean, no one was accepting people into the offices if they were even in themselves, and just doing my best. And that's kind of why I did the CTS, was a way to keep busy as well. I hate not being busy.
Mm-hmm. So what's the space between your CTS and your CTS-I? You had your CTS for a while, didn't you?
I did CTS in December 2020 and July 21, so 7 months only.
Oh wow, okay, so
yeah. Well, I said I'd do it while I'm in the mode of studying stuff. I keep going.
Yeah, and again, like it's one of these things that, like, I've had the eye in mind for a while, but through the lockdown and with young kids, it's just been put on the long thing. And I advise everyone that thinks of doing it, just book it and then start.
Absolutely, yeah. Even if you don't get it, book it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll like, if you keep putting it off, that's kind of what because I was talking about the CTS for ages, and my wife was like, "Well, when are you going to do it?" I was like, "I don't know." I said, "Book it and then worry about it. Like, then you have a deadline on you, and if I have a deadline, I'll do it. I know I will. If I don't have a deadline, I'll keep kicking it down the road." Yes,
yeah. And now, I always say that it's slowly getting more recognised with the CTS here. Does Sony give you any recognition of the fact that you're now the first D holder in Ireland?
Yeah, like, to be fair, my team were all very congratulatory, and there's an internal newsletter, and whoever watches our social or looks after our social spotted it, and I got a mention in the internal newsletter on it. We have like the company membership, because I just joined it myself and all that, but then we have an elite membership, so we have 50 members on the European team that can get elite membership. So that was very handy, because obviously a lot of the courses are only available to elite members. And it is, even within Sony, there's more recognition of it. And I was talking to a couple of integrators, and one of them was telling me they were pricing a job at one of the multinationals that was moving to Ireland, and that was one of the things they wanted, was that the company who were going for it had to have some CTS holders as at a minimum. So there's certainly more recognition of it around.
So what are you going to do with this D? Are you actually going to think of going into the design end of things and then do more consultancy?
Maybe. Well, hopefully that was one of the things I was thinking about, because with the new role, it is dealing with the consultants. Mm-hmm. So I suppose hopefully with it, I'll have a bit more that's the word I'm looking for. I suppose recognition, or kind of, it's just not another sales guy knocking on the door. I suppose that they'll realize that I know what I'm at. Hopefully, hopefully I'll be able to.
I always find that even with the CTS, from working in a higher ed environment, you do get people, like some people at times. Even now, my title in DCU is learning technologist, and in previous roles that I've been in, they treat these people that came in to scope a job would sometimes they think that you're just the IT guy, that you don't know, and I'm sorry to say I won't name any company, but like some of them do try and pull the wool over your eyes and then you just as soon as you start talking tech with them, they actually realize, oh, right, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. You know, so now not I can say not every company is like that, but like there was a couple of times where people were pricing me for touch panels that I just went, no, hold on a minute, I don't need a touch panel that size and caliber, and it goes back to the old Avixa thought that you're supposed to be providing for the end user. You're not supposed to be selling them all the bells and whistles that go with it.
Yeah.
Will you think of doing the eye? Not that there's a rush, because I want to be the first eye in Ireland.
I can't. No, I can't see myself doing the eye at any stage. I'd say now, unless I end up going back to an integrator at some point, then maybe I'd look at the eye. But even if I was to go back to an integrator, I wouldn't be envisaging myself being back on the tools. So no, I don't think I'll be doing the eye. You never know. Never say never.
Has the work picked up for you now with the restrictions being lifted? I'm sure it's a real, the fact that you're traveling so much at the moment, Kevin. It's you look at Ireland and then you look at England and you just go, England's just open for business now.
Oh, totally. I mean, even today now, because I'm at the Peerless event. Where I'm right across the road from Lord's, so there's a big event there. And we were setting up, and even coming over on the train and the tube, you're still supposed to wear a mask on public transport. But even looking around, there's probably 50% of people wearing masks even on public transport here now. So I'm like, I'm putting on 2 masks. I'm not all the way over and back. I am not picking up COVID. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I know I guess you're flying. You're not going by boat or anything.
No, flying. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, I know LTSMG has been put off for another year, and they're watching things.
I think it's April. I think, is it?
I think SCOMS is going to be in April,
then
the LTSMG are doing it at home in November this year. There is talks of they have plans for LTSMG 2022 already, and so have SCOMS. But I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable traveling yet. Over to England or anything. If I'm traveling, I might travel by boat, but I don't feel comfortable getting on a plane yet.
Well, to be fair, in the airports and on the planes, they're very strict with masks and all the rest. But even again, like social distancing, and you've 6 people sent across.
Well, it's going to be interesting because, every higher ed that I've talked to in Ireland, they're all going to the stage of going, okay, well, we advise you to wear a face mask. We're not enforcing to wear face masks. Students, well, they've been told to wear face masks. They're all coming back now in 2 weeks' time, but they're saying to lecturers that they don't have to if they're standing at the front of the lecture theatre. So it is questionable. I don't know. Personally, I won't go anywhere around campus without a face mask on. I don't want to get COVID.
No, absolutely not. No, and I suppose it's personal responsibility. I suppose yourself, if you're talking to a group of 19-year-olds, they're invincible in their heads, so it's different. But
do you think ISE in next year will have full numbers again?
Still a good way away. It'll depend on how the winter goes, really.
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to think it'll be somewhere back up near enough to capacity. But I can't see it being the size of 2019, we'll say.
Yes.
Because I think 2020 numbers were definitely down, and obviously 21 we didn't have it. So I think it won't be 2019 numbers, but hopefully getting there.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to ask you about the new non-disclosure agreements of what's coming out with Sony because you're not going to be able to tell me. But has Sony been hit with the same problems that's on a global level? Like I was talking to Simon, who you know as well, and he was telling me that there's a global shortage of HDMI cables now because of the components.
Yeah. We're not too bad. So kind of our displays would be obviously the biggest part of the business. Generally okay. The the odd week or two here and there where there's but our kind of our biggest sellers are the 65, 75, and 85, and we've ample stock. Thankfully, I believe actually recently we were the only manufacturer in one distributor that had any 75-inch stock, which was great for us.
Yeah.
For the period.
So you're sort of like situating yourself right beside LG and the rest of your competitors and just going hello at trade shows. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, we have stock. Come talk to us.
Yeah. We have lollipops as well. Come on to us.
No, there is some like the cameras. I know our PTZ cameras. We when the pandemic started, with courts being remote and education being remote, meetings being remote, we were out of stock, which is they flew off the shelves. Now we got stock back, but again, the chip shortages hit us there. But and on certain projector lines, we had some issues because I think they kind of allocated the chips to other stuff. So yeah, the projectors being hit slightly. So the very high end projectors, not the kind of again the run rate 5,000, that's 6,000 density, they're fine, but they kind of 10 and 13,000 density definitely hit.
And on the trade show floors, you mentioned that you're over there in England at the moment. Is it quiet, or is the trade show floors is it getting a bit busier now?
I think the event is tomorrow, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of people here.
Good.
It's 2 days, because originally it was only going to be Thursday. They were saying one day and we'll see what registration is like, and then they decided to go with the second day. So like everyone I talked to is going. There's an AV user group event. There's a women in AV event. There's a drinks reception. There's another. So there's a lot happening at the event, and it looks like kind of it's going to be pretty packed, which is great.
Well, I don't know where you were at ISE London there a couple of months ago.
No,
but one thing that made me cringe was knowing that there was an Irish bar called God, I can't remember. Evovation. Yeah, Evolution rather. And then I was told by a couple of the AV tweeps that they didn't even have pints of Guinness. They were giving out bottles of Stella and Corona. So it's like, hold on a minute. I'm glad that I'm talking to another Irish AV person that can go, hold on a minute, this isn't an Irish bar.
No.
You don't have Irish whiskey, you don't have Irish Guinness. I'm out of here. Yeah. It was a bit cheesy. So I'm gonna finish off, Kevin, by just asking the question, like, now that's an accolade, and a great accolade to have as well. What advice do you give to anyone that's going into the AV industry?
That's a good question.
When you start off.
Yeah, when you start off, I think, to be honest with you, actually, when I went back and I started looking at the CTS courses, there was so much stuff there that I kind of had learned by osmosis. To be fair, I had some good teachers over the years, people who'd been around a long time. As I said, like my own dad was really good. And I mean, if you ask people around the business, there's people that worked for the company that are in, I'd say 5 or 6 AV still in the industry, and several who've gone out of it, obviously. But there's loads of people around who would know my dad and would be well respected. But I'd say learn the simple things like that now. If the AV maths stuff was very good, I thought, and keep it simple. Always try and keep it simple. Don't try and overcomplicate it, because the more complex you try and make it, the more probability that you will have of messing it up.
I totally agree, because even from doing the CTS, you can start questioning yourself, and that's the downfall. As soon as you start questioning the answers to the question, they keep on always saying, like Chuck says, and all the Avixa trainers always say, it's the best answer. So read the question, think about it before, but don't start second guessing yourself.
Absolutely.
Once
click the first one you think is probable, and then say, okay, right, there's one that's definitely not. There's one kind of red herring, definitely. There's always one of them that it can't be that, and then there's 3 possibles. But what do you think is the most obvious, or the best explanation?
Now we can have this Irish chat. This is my final question. Did you find it very Americanized?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And even some of the stuff, like I did there was a course on project management for AV, and I suppose my background in integrator wasn't in a large scale. You know, we were relatively small, but the processes, it was like, okay, you know, it talks about having this department, that department, doing this and doing that, and the other. And it's like, yeah, not really how it works here. But I can see where they're coming from, and I can understand the rationale. And I suppose the whole point of it was trying to raise the standard in the industry, and trying to have a methodology for spec in the project, and for how you deal with a client. And for that, I thought it was great. But yeah, it was, some of it was kind of, that's like, that's not necessarily relevant here. But no, it was good. It was very good.
No, I totally agree. I think it's up to us to change that image. Now, I know it's a global industry standard qualification. Some things might not fit into the realms of what we do in Ireland or even across Europe. But if we can get those standards implemented from the start, you know, even if you went off and being your own consultant, or even if you started managing a team, to try and put these things into place. And I think Ireland is more and more, slowly but surely, adapting the whole CTS umbrella thought and standards.
Well, definitely, I think standards have definitely improved. I mean, I do remember going in to look at jobs that were terrible, and even when I think some of the jobs I did, I go back and I'm like, oh, it was all wrong. Like, I made a real hames of that. To be fair, hand up, I did, but I don't think there's anyone who hasn't. But I can see from some work I've seen of that's around, the standard has definitely improved, and that the more that happens, the better we'll be all around.
Kevin, if listeners of the program want to get in contact with you, what's the best way of getting in contact?
So I suppose LinkedIn or email kevin.donnelly@sony.com. It's probably the best. Yeah. If anyone wants to give me a shout.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for doing it. Stay safe over there. I'm slurring my words, and I hadn't even had an Irish drink yet. It's the talk of all these drinks that we were going to have.
Well, I'm getting thirsty now, actually. We've just set up, so I'm like, all right, time for a beer.
Yeah, well, enjoy the event. Hopefully you have plenty of football in the place. Giving away, are you going to be giving away any Sony swag, or is that?
There's a nice set of noise cancelling headphones, the over-ear ones.
Very nice. So,
and I'll have a box of celebrations.
A box of celebrations. Yeah. So they have the 75-inch. They have sweeties, and they have a prize as well. Sorry, LG, you're out of the running here. Well, that's all I have time for episode 51 of the All Things Techie podcast. As always, the opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the companies and institutions that I represent, or the sponsors of the show. In episode 52, we're going to be talking about rural Ireland, technology in rural Ireland, and do we really have to work in buildings in Dublin, or can we work in virtual tech hubs across Ireland? That's coming up in episode 52 of the All Things Techie podcast. Don't forget, if you want to comment on the program in any way, means or forms, you can tweet me at Justin or Dawson at AV Tech Junkies, and we're available on our official website where you can download previous episodes and also subscribe on YouTube and subscribe in your favorite app store. All the details on our website, www.allthingstech.ie. Goodbye.
The All Things Techie podcast is a product of the Extreme Media Network. For advertising and sponsorship opportunities, please visit www.extrememedia.ie. That's XTREME media.ie.